Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today we will follow Trieu Dung on a peaceful morning journey to a clear mountain stream, where he uses only a bamboo basket and simple tools to catch fresh fish for food and for selling at the local market. But will the quiet stream give him enough fish to make the whole day worthwhile? Let's discover it together. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next journey. In the early morning, when the mountain air was still cool and the mist had not yet lifted from the treetops, Trieu Dung stepped out of his small wooden house with a bamboo basket on his back. The yard was quiet, except for the sound of chickens scratching near the fence and the soft rustle of dry leaves under his feet. He looked toward the forest path for a moment, then picked up a few simple tools he had prepared the night before: a small hand net, a short knife, a woven fish trap, and a thin rope. For him, the day did not begin with noise or hurry. It began with the calm feeling of knowing there was honest work waiting ahead. The stream was not too far from his home, but the path leading there was narrow and damp. On one side were wild grasses and thick bushes. On the other side, tall trees leaned over the trail, their leaves still wet from the night dew. Trieu Dung walked carefully, placing each step on the firmer patches of ground. Sometimes he stopped to listen. In the quiet forest, even the smallest sound became clear. Birds calling from deep branches, insects moving in the grass, and somewhere ahead, the gentle sound of running water. As he came closer to the stream, the air became fresher. The smell of wet stone, green moss, and clean water filled the morning. The stream curved between large rocks, flowing down from the mountain in a clear, steady line. Sunlight passed through the trees and broke into bright patches on the water's surface. Trieu Dung set his bamboo basket on a flat stone and crouched down beside the bank. He did not rush. He knew that catching fish in a mountain stream required patience, quiet movement, and a good understanding of where the fish like to hide. First, he chose a shallow part of the stream where the water moved around several flat rocks. Small fish often stayed there, hiding from the stronger current. Trieu Dung rolled up his sleeves, stepped into the cool water, and slowly lifted one stone after another. Each time he moved a rock, he placed the net behind it, ready for any fish that might dart out. The water was cold enough to make his hands stiff, but he stayed focused. A few tiny fish slipped away quickly, flashing silver in the sunlight before disappearing between the stones. After several tries, he caught the first fish of the morning. It was small but fresh and lively, moving quickly inside the net. Trieu Dung smiled, placed it carefully into a little container filled with water, and continued working. One fish was never enough, but it was always a good sign. It meant the stream was alive, and if he kept searching with patience, the morning would not be wasted. He then moved to a deeper bend where fallen leaves had gathered against a cluster of rocks. This was a better place for larger fish. He placed the woven trap near the edge of the current and used small pieces of leftover rice as bait. After tying the rope to a root beside the bank, he covered part of the trap with leaves and stones so it looked natural. He had learned that fish were easily frightened by anything strange in the water. The more ordinary the trap appeared, the better chance he had. While waiting, Trieu Dung walked along the bank and searched with his hands beneath stones and tree roots. The stream bed was slippery, and more than once he nearly lost his balance, but he stayed calm. Every small success mattered. The smaller fish would be perfect for a simple countryside meal, cooked with herbs and a little salt over a wood fire. The larger ones, if he caught enough, could be sold at the local market for a little extra money. It was not a rich life, but it was a life built from effort, patience, and the gifts of the forest. After some time, Trieu Dung returned to the place where he had set the woven trap. The rope was still tied firmly to the tree root, but the water around the trap moved differently now. He crouched down, held the rope with both hands, and slowly pulled it toward the bank. At first, he felt only the weight of stones and water. Then the trap shook lightly. His eyes brightened. When he lifted it from the stream, 2 larger fish were moving inside, their bodies shining under the morning sun. He placed the fish into the bamboo basket and covered them with fresh leaves to keep them cool. For Trieu Dung, this was more than just food. Each fish meant one more small step toward a steady life in the mountains. The small fish could become a warm meal after a long day of work. The larger fish could be taken to the market, where someone would buy them for dinner. It was a simple exchange, but it carried the value of his time, his patience, and the clean water that flowed from the forest. The sun had risen higher by then, and the mist above the stream had almost disappeared. Trieu Dung decided to try one more section before heading home. He walked farther upstream, where the water passed between narrow rocks and formed a deeper pool. The current there was stronger, so he moved carefully. He placed his feet firmly on the stones, bent down, and used the hand net to block a small opening between 2 rocks. With his other hand, he reached into the water and gently stirred the sand beneath the roots. A fish darted out suddenly. Trieu Dung moved quickly, lowering the net at just the right moment. Water splashed onto his shirt, and for a few seconds the fish fought hard inside the net. He laughed softly, not because it was easy, but because this small success came from knowing the stream and respecting its rhythm. In the city, people might not notice these little moments, but here, in the quiet forest, even one fish could bring a feeling of joy. When the basket was heavy enough, Trieu Dung stopped. He did not take more than he needed. The stream had given him something today, and he believed it should be left alive for tomorrow. He rinsed his hands in the cold water, gathered his tools, and looked around one last time. The trees stood tall around him, the rocks were covered with green moss, and the clear stream continued flowing as if nothing had changed. On the way back, the path felt easier than before. The bamboo basket pressed against his back, and the fish inside moved from time to time. Near the edge of the forest, he picked a few wild herbs growing beside the trail. They would be perfect for cooking the smaller fish at home. He imagined a simple meal, fish grilled over fire, herbs crushed with salt, and hot rice from the clay pot. It was not fancy, but it was the kind of food that made a tired person feel grateful. Back at his wooden house, Trieu Dung sorted the fish carefully. The smaller ones he placed in a bowl for lunch. The larger ones he cleaned, wrapped in broad green leaves, and prepared to bring to the local market. Before leaving, he started a small fire in the outdoor kitchen and cooked a few fish for himself. The smell of grilled fish rose into the morning air, mixing with smoke from dry firewood. After eating, Trieu Dung lifted the basket again and walked toward the village market. His clothes were still a little wet, and his hands smelled of stream water and fresh fish, but his face was calm. That morning had not brought him a large amount of money, yet it had brought enough. Enough food for the day, enough fish to sell, and enough reason to keep building this quiet life with his own hands. In this video, Trieu Dung begins his morning by walking from his small wooden house toward a clear mountain stream near the forest. Carrying a bamboo basket and simple tools, he carefully searches the cool water for fresh fish. He lifts stones, places a woven trap, and patiently follows the movement of the stream. Each fish he catches has a purpose. The smaller ones will become a simple countryside meal, while the larger ones will be sold at the local market to earn extra money. Through quiet effort, patience, and respect for nature, Trieu Dung shows how a simple life in the mountains can still bring meaning and value. The journey is not only about catching fish, but also about building a steady life with his own hands, one small success at a time.